Okay, so first of all, as I mentioned in the beginning of this class, today we're doing the 1999 AMC 8. And if you weren't aware, previously we were always doing the AJH SME, which was like a precursor version of the AMC 8. But in 1999, they changed it to call it the AMC 8. So technically today is the first time we're actually doing the actual AMC 8. So just a fun fact I thought I would share. And let's go ahead and begin. So problem 7, the third exit on a highway is located at milepost 40, and the 10th exit is at milepost 160. There is a service center on the highway located 3/4 of the way from the third exit to the 10th exit. At what milepost would you find this service center? Does anyone have an idea of how to solve this question? Someone says that they think the answer is E. Do we agree, disagree? Okay, I think it seems that we're a little unsure. So let's work through this question. So let me get my pen. So if you look at this question, it says that the third exit is at milepost 40 and 10th exit is at milepost 160. So you might think it has something to do with the third and the 10th, but these are really just auxiliary adjectives, and you really don't need to rely on these. So what you would rely on is the 40 and the 160, right? Because all you really need to know is that you have a milepost at 40 miles and another one at 160 miles. And you know a service center is on the highway located 3/4 of the way. So that means since one is here, let's say this is the beginning point. This point here is 40 miles. And this point here is 160 miles. If there's a service center on the highway located 3/4 of the way from the third to the 10th, that means if I cut it into quarters, this point right here will be the service center. But since this entire thing here is 120, that means this part must be 3/4 of 120, right? So it must be 90. So therefore, to find the location of this point, you add 40 to 90, which is 130, meaning that you would find the service center at 130 miles. So the answer would be E. So our anonymous friend is correct. Are there any questions about this problem? All right. Okay, let's move on to the second one. Was the unknown person me? No, actually, it's if you scroll right on your participants bar, there's a person named Boyan, and he is the anonymous person answering the questions. All right, problem 8. 6 squares are colored front and back. R is red, B is blue, O is orange, Y is yellow, G is gray, and W is white. They are hinged together as shown, then folded to form a cube. The face opposite the white face is what? What do we think the answer is for this question? Leo, Jasper, do you guys have an idea? Okay, Jasper says B. Hemi says C. Boyan says A. Okay, some I don't knows. Okay. I think it's a fairly distributed response. So let's just work through this question. Maybe Jasper, maybe. So, this question it's less about math, but more actually about geometric intuition. So, right, you want to imagine that you cut a paper in the form of like this shape you have this the shape you have here, and then you fold it to make a cube, right? So you want to kind of imagine what happened. So one way you could do this is definitely to cut something out like this. You can just verify it yourself. But in the AMCA, you probably won't have the time to do so. So what you would do is imagine that you fold this, right? So let's imagine. No, okay, yeah, Kimmy. That's yes, the answer is B. That's right. But let's see how we'll get there. Let's see how we'll derive the answer. So first of all, let's say that G is the base, right? So let's say you put G as the bottom of the cube. Then I think we can all agree that since Y and B are next to G, they must be like the walls, right? They're the vertical faces of the cube when you have G as the bottom, right? But then that means since O is 2 away from G, it can't be one of these vertical walls, right? Because if it's one of these vertical walls, it has to touch G, but it doesn't. So that means O is the top. O is the ceiling, right? It's the top of the cube when G is the bottom. That means that W is simply another face and R is simply another vertical face. And if you think about it, when you fold B, let's say that G is here and B is here. Then Y would obviously be the face to the right. And since W is attached to Y, W would simply be the face to down on the bottom of G, if that makes sense. So B and W will be opposite pairs. And so the face opposite the white face will be the blue face. So the answer choice is A. Oh yeah, Jasper, definitely. There's a lot of ways to work through this problem, and you definitely don't have to use G as the base. But yeah, good job to everyone who said question answer choice A. Are there any questions about this problem? All right. Let's look at question 9. Oh no, I didn't mean to do that. All right, 3 flower beds overlap as shown. Bed A has 500 plants. Bed B has 450 plants. Bed C has 350 plants. Beds A and B share 50 plants, while beds A and C share 100 plants. The total number of plants is what? What is the answer, you guys? Royce, do you have any ideas? Leo, Jasper, what do you guys think? Okay, someone says they think it's C. Kimmy says it's C. I'm not sure if he actually solved it or if he just copied Boyan, but nevertheless, two C's. Okay. Kimmy, do you want to tell us about how you solved it? That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Um, okay, let's work through this question and see if Boyan and Kimi are correct. So this question is actually easier than it looks, right? Because all you really have to do is add up these three numbers and subtract these two numbers, right? And the reasoning is that when you, right, so let me first write that out, right? So to get the answer, you simply perform this. I claim that this expression will give you the answer. And maybe let's evaluate it first, right? So you have 500 plus 800 minus 150. So it's 1150. So the answer is C. That's right. But how did we get this expression? So when you add 500 to 450 plus 350, you're adding this, you're adding this, you're adding this. But notice what happens when you do that. The area that's overlapping, specifically this part here, this is added twice when you do this, right? Because A and B and A and C shares plants, and that's the pink area that you add twice. So that means to actually get the total number of plants, you have to account for this over adding. And you do that by specifically subtracting 50, because since A and B share 50 plants, if you subtract 50, you take away one of the countings of the pink region and you correct for the overcounting. And by subtracting 100, you account for the other overcounting shared by A and C. So the answer ends up being 1150. Are there any questions about this? It's actually a fairly straightforward question. Why 100? Because A and C share 100, right? So, yeah. All right. There are no more questions. Let's move on to the last warm-up question. Okay. A complete cycle of traffic light takes 60 seconds. During each cycle, the light is green for 25 seconds, yellow for 5 seconds, and red for 30 seconds. At a randomly chosen time, what is the probability that the light will not be green? A, 1/4, B, 1/3, C, 5/12, D, 1/2, E, 7/12. What do we think? Kimmy says C. Very confident. Okay, Boyan says it's E. Okay, we have some dissenting responses. Are there any other responses? Loy, Leo, what do you guys think? Okay, so we have C, D, E. A very diverse range of responses. Okay, let's just work through this. So to calculate probability, you always divide the number of successful options by the number of total options, right? And what that means by successful options is the number of options that satisfies the requirement. So the light will not be green, right? And you want to divide that by the total number of options. So in this case, since green light occurs for 25 seconds, yellow for 5, and red for 30, the duration of time in one cycle in which the light is not green is 5 plus 30. We can all agree on this, right? This is the duration of time or the number of successful options, and you want to divide that by the total number of options, which is 60, because that's the full cycle. And that's the full time in one complete cycle. So that would give you 35 over 60, which simplifies to 7/12. So the answer is E. I think Kemi, you probably had the right idea, but you just simplified the last step wrong. But that's okay. Are there any questions about this problem? That's okay. Good job. All right. So now that we are done with these, I am going to give you guys, yeah, boy. Oh, would you like to talk about how you did it? Feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, that's okay. Would you like to type your response or you can annotate on a board if you want? Okay, so Boyan says the probability of it being green is 25/16. Okay. Not green is simply 1 minus 25/16. You know, Boyan, yep, that's indeed another correct way to solve this question. That's absolutely correct, right? Because guys, in general, for any specific question, probabilities always add up to 1, right? So for example, the probability of today or tomorrow raining is plus adding to the probability of tomorrow not raining is always equal to 1, right? And in this case, the probability of the light being green added on to the probability of the light being not green is also equal to 1. So that means since the probability of the light being green is 25/60, which is 5/12, the desired probability is simply 1 minus that. So 7/12. So, Boyan, that's right. That's absolutely a correct way to solve this. So yeah, good job. Are there any other questions? Okay, let's move on. So here's your second set of questions. Some of these are a little challenging. If you have any questions, send me a message. I'll give you a hint. And if not, I will talk about these in roughly 10 minutes. So good luck. So problem 11. Each of the five numbers 1, 4, 7, 10, and 13 is placed in one of the five squares so that the sum of the three numbers in the horizontal row equals the sum of the three numbers in the vertical column. The largest possible value for the horizontal or vertical column, vertical sum is A, 20, B, 21, C, 22, D, 24, E, 30. Jasper, what did you just send in the chat? I'm not gonna click on it because if I click on it, it's gonna share screen. Oh, okay. I mean, if you're in the Zoom already, you kind of don't need a link, huh? But I mean, thank you, I guess. Um, um, all right. How do we solve this question? What do we think is the answer? Hopefully no one says 30. 21. Kimmy says 21. Jasper says it's 30. Boyan says it's 24. Jasper says it's 40, 50. Huh, there's some wild guesses. Um, Would anyone like to explain how they solved this question? Go ahead, Leo. Would you like to unmute or you can annotate on the board if you want, or you can type in the chat. Up to you. Okay. Leo says he's gonna type his solution. While he does that, Jasper says I counted the squares. Brown says everything is okay. Um, okay. Leo says divide 13 by 2 and you get 7.5. I'm going to copy his messages to everyone in the meeting so you guys can all see it. You know what? Why don't we do this? Leo, you can keep on typing and oh, and the nearest, okay. He's typing. Okay, Leo, while you type, I'm going to um go through the solution and then we can see if we match up. All right. Um, so the way I would solve this question is that since we're trying to maximize the sum, right? We will begin by putting 13 in the middle. No, Jasper, we don't need free brains. Um, I would begin by putting 13 in the middle, right? Because that would maximize the sum. And if you look at the numbers 1, 7, 4, 10, hopefully you notice that these numbers add up to 11. And once you do that, you're done. You just put these numbers like that, and the answer is clearly 24. So, are there any questions about this? Guys, please stop sending sketchy links in the chat. All right, if there are no questions, we'll move on to the next problem. Problem 12. The ratio of the number of games won to the number of games lost, no ties by the middle school middies, is 11/4. To the nearest whole percent, what percent of its games did the team lose? A, 24, B, 27, C, 26, D, 45, E, 73. What do we think is the answer? Kemi says 45. Okay, that's a huge percent. All right. Boyan says it's B. Okay, we have some dissenting answers. Kemi is trying to prove that 4 plus 5 equals 45. Great. Are there any other ideas? Jasper agrees. I'm not sure what he is agreeing with. Okay, let's just work through this. Okay, he agrees with Boyan. So 2 votes on B. Okay. So the way we should solve this is to divide, because to calculate percentage, it's really a ratio, right? It's a rate. So you want to find the rate of games lost. over the total number of games. So if you look at this ratio 11/4, it's saying that for every 11 games won, they lost 4 games. So in other words, you can think of this ratio as saying that this middle school middies, they won a total of 11x games, W, and they lost a total of 4x games. So that means they played a total of 15x games. That means to find the ratio of how many games they lost, simply divide 4x by 15x, which gives you 4/15. At this point, there's a couple different things you could do. The first thing you could do is long division, right? Because obviously this is not a nice fraction, so you can do long division to figure out what the answer would be. So you can do this. And you would see that the answer would be roughly 27%, right? Because 27 is closest to 26%, which there's more decimal places, but you have to evaluate. But the other thing you could also do is to note that 4/15 is definitely greater than a quarter, right? Because 4/16 is 1/4. And since 4/15 has a smaller denominator, it's definitely greater than 1/4. So you can rule out 24%. And you also know that 4/15 is definitely smaller than 1/3, right? Because if you think about it, 1/3 would translate to 5/15. So since the numerator here is 4, it's definitely less than 1/3. So it cannot be C. And it definitely can be anything higher. So the answer would be B. So a couple different ways you can solve this question. Are there any questions about this problem? Whoa there, Kemi. Okay, you know what? I think Kemi just brought up something really interesting. He is trying to prove that 4 equals 5, and it seems like he actually just came up with a very legit proof. So I think that instead of going over this next question, I will go over Kemi's proof, and maybe we can see what went wrong. So Kemi starts out with -20 over -20. And he proceeds to say that this is equivalent to the statement 25 minus 45 equals 16 minus 36. And I think we can all agree so far so good, right? Okay, these fractions are a little hard to read. Oh yeah, thank you, Boyan. So I think he wrote 5 squared. What is that? Minus. What did you write, Kimmy? Oh my God. If I can't read this, I'm not gonna do it. Okay, I think he wrote 5 squared minus 2 times 5 times 9 over 2. I'm not sure why you're doing that. Plus 9 over 2 squared equals 4 squared minus 2 times 4 times 9 over 2 plus 9 over 2 squared. So then he did 5/9 halves equals 4 minus 9 halves. Took the square root of both sides, and he says 5 minus 9 halves equals 4 minus 9 halves. So therefore 5 equals 4. Okay, this actually seems like a pretty convincing argument. Does anyone see what went wrong? Yep, Kimmy, but what went wrong? You forgot? Okay. Guys, this is actually a very common error with square roots, right? Because every step until here was correct, right? Because you see Kimmy here, he employed a difference, I mean, not difference, he employed a factorization, right, for squares. Because if you expand this out, you would get this. This is an algebraic formula, and it's absolutely correct. What went wrong is actually this step here, because you actually can't take the square roots like that, right? Because 5 minus 9 halves is a positive number, but 4 minus 9 halves is actually a negative number. And that means if you take the square root, you actually wouldn't get 4 minus 9 halves. You would actually get 9 halves minus 4, which means you would actually end up with 5 plus 4 equals 9 half plus 9 half, which results in a true statement, right? So, yeah, so this might seem like a very convincing proofs, and there's a lot of proofs on the internet like this, but usually they all end up wrong on this step. So, well, Kimmy, thanks for contributing this. I thought it's interesting to talk about. Let's look at problem 13 while we still have some time. The average age of the 40 members of the computer science camp is 17 years. There are 20 girls, 15 boys, and 5 adults. If the average age of the girls is 15 and the average age of the boys is 16, what is the average age of the adults? Tell me your answers. Okay, Boyan thinks it's C. Kimmy says C-ish. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, Kimmy seems to have found an allegiance to Boyan. That's funny. Um, okay, let's work through this question, shall we? So to solve this question, I would simply add up the total age, right? So if there are 20 girls and their average age is 15, and if there are 15 boys and their average age is 16, that means the total age of the boys plus girls is 300 plus, what is this number, guys? I can't do mental math. 160 times 90, 250, right? So their total age is 550. But if you know that there are 40 members and their average age is 17, that means the total age at the camp is 400 plus 280, so 680, right? So then that means the number of age remaining for the adults is 130. So you have 130 divided by 5 adults, which means you would end up. Wait, no, something went wrong here. 160 plus 5. Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry, guys. So total age is 240. Right. So the total age of the boys and girls is 540. And again, total age of the camp is 680. So subtract 540 from that and divide by the number of adults. You have 140 divided by 5, which is 28. So the answer is C. So that is correct, Wayang. Kim, you didn't really solve this question, did you? Um, but that's okay. All right, are there any questions about this problem? Okay. All right, let's move on to the last question and then we'll call it a day. In trapezoid ABCD, the sides A, B, and CD are equal. The perimeter of ABCD is what? Please, everyone, shout out your answers. What did we give for this question? Kimmy says D. Okay. Whale says D. Okay, okay. All right. Are there any other responses? Leo, Jasper, Joyce, Lloyd? Okay. Leo says it's D too. Jasper, no, go away. Okay, let's solve this question, shall we? So, first of all, since sides A, B, and CD are equal, this is an isosceles trapezoid, right? So that means since the bottom is 16 and the top is, oh my God, I cannot draw the straight line. Since the bottom is 16 and the top is 8, that means these sides are each 4 and 4, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Actually, I'm gonna write it. That's kind of confusing. I'm gonna write it inside, right? These sides are 4 and 4 because this way they add up to 16. Um, then if you apply the Pythagorean theorem, you would see that AB is 5 and CD is 5, right? Because if you know this side and this side, if you know the two legs of a right triangle, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse, which is square root of 25 or 5. Then all you have to do is add it up, right? So you have 5 plus 8 plus 5 plus 16. So the answer is simply 10 plus 24 or 34, which is actually pretty straightforward. All right, are there any questions? Any final remaining questions, comments, concerns? Okay, Jasper is wait. Okay, Jasper. All right, if there are no more questions, you're free to go. Thank you very much and have a good night. Thank you. Bye.